Chapter 1, Get the Unlimited Spell at the beginning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. 1 second, it was a fancy hotel. The next, a dingy prison cell. Gone were the delicate bodies, replaced by reeking, filthy ones. Sumu was still trying to figure out what was going on when, bang, the clang of a metal bar hitting metal echoed, making him jump. This body had a deep-seated fear of that sound, a conditioned response. Moments later, several towering black men strolled in from the light, slopping some murky liquid into each cell. When they got to Sumu, one of the men said, "Yo, boss, this yellow-skinned monkey's still kicking. He's like cockroach or something." The bald boss, covered in intimidating tattoos, glanced at Sumu and warned his buddy, "Don't touch him for now. The deal's coming up. Dead organs ain't fresh, and that drops the price." Yeah, got it." The younger guy nodded, brown-nosing to show he understood. He shot a nasty look at Sumu, instinctively touching the wound on his hand, and muttered through gritted teeth, "Lucky you, kid." Organ trade. After they left, it clicked for Sumu. An intense tingling shot through his brain, and he was flooded with fragmented memories. The original owner, also named Sumu, was a run-of-the-mill college student who'd suddenly unlocked some mutant power a month ago, using it to escape a burning house unscathed, but his luck ran out. His parents found out about his abilities and, disgusted, kicked him to the curb. Then, a mysterious organization started hunting him. He wound up getting snatched by some Hell's Kitchen gang members and locked away in this underground prison. The black man who had brought Gruel was his captor. Sumu had fought back, nearly biting off a chunk of the guy's hand. That's why the N-word was taking such special care of him. Looking at the scarred, festering skin under his clothes, still oozing slightly, it was clear that's what had killed the original Sumu, but that wasn't the immediate problem. In a week, the gang was cutting a deal with some other underground organization, and this batch of merchandise would be slaughtered like livestock, their organs harvested, and this world. It was familiar, mutants, Stark Industries. This was the seriously dangerous Marvel universe. Even if he escaped this immediate crisis, how could he avoid the snap that threatened everyone? Sumu wasn't betting on those odds. Was this the movie world or the comic book world? If it was the movies, he might stand a chance. But the comics, Sumu shuddered, and the original owner's powers? If he had strong powers, he wouldn't have been kidnapped by an underground gang. His ability was energy absorption. Exactly like the Black King's ability. However, after the initial rush of emotion and awakening, the ability's strength had faded. He couldn't even fully absorb the kinetic energy of a fist, let alone bullets or mutant powers. What good was such a weak ability? Sumu felt a wave of despair. He hadn't expected to die right after transmigrating. He'd had a good life before, so why this sudden change? As he struggled to come to terms with this, a voice echoed in his mind, "Congratulations. You have awakened the multiverse character template system. You have obtained the character template, Gojo Satoru. You have awakened the skill, 6 Eyes LV1, name, Sumu, template, Gojo Satoru, energy absorption LV1, 78/100 absorbs most energy types, but with low absorption speed and storage capacity. 6 Eyes LV1, 1/100 grants 360-degree long-distance vision, the ability to perceive energy flow, and exceptional dynamic vision for precise energy manipulation. Template synchronization, 1%, increase synchronization to unlock new skills. Energy points, 0, when template synchronization reaches 100%, you will obtain a new character template. Sumu felt an immediate change. He had a 360-degree view of the surroundings, and his eyesight was incredible. He could even see the dust motes dancing in the air. He also saw blue lines crisscrossing his vision, tracing back to the dim wall lamp behind him. It was electricity, the energy that 6 Eyes could see. Testing his ability, Sumu felt a surge of hope. His first character template was Gojo Satoru. Even if 2.5 Satoru's reputation has taken a hit recently, he was still one of the biggest badasses in Jujutsu Kaisen. If he could get even a fraction of Gojo Satoru's power, he could easily break out of here, and more importantly, Gojo Satoru was so cool. With the system, Sumu felt a spark of hope for the future. But right now, escaping this gang prison was all that mattered. Just then, he heard heavy footsteps. It was the guy from before, Jim. Jim stopped at Sumu's cell, flashing a vicious grin, and whispered, "Yellow-skinned monkey, I didn't think you had so much life in you. Guess I'll let you live one more day. I'll make sure you have a good time tomorrow." With that, he unzipped his pants and pissed into the bowl on the floor. Seeing Sumu's indifferent expression, as if he were already dead, Jim bristled with anger. The ache in his hand flared up, but he remembered the boss's orders and held back. He wouldn't dare disobey, so he just spat out his threat and left. Sumu watched Jim go, then turned away, looking at the yellow liquid and slop on the ground. He recoiled. Even though it hadn't splashed on him, he was going to pay that N-word back for this. He was hungry, but there was no way Sumu was touching that piss-tainted gruel. He had to figure out his new abilities. He moved, using his body to block the dim light. Under the cover of a cough, he used force to break the glass covering the bulb. Sumu hid a shard of glass in his sleeve. It all came down to this: with the 6 eyes, he felt like he could control energy with pinpoint accuracy. His energy absorption had changed too. He touched the filament with his finger. Using the 6 eyes' precise control, he absorbed the electricity and heat, and his energy points slowly ticked up. Energy point +1, dot, energy point +1, dot, energy point +1, dot, energy absorption experience +1, dot, energy absorption experience +1, dot, energy absorption experience +1. Hours crawled by as Sumu shielded the bulb with his body, absorbing energy, feeding it into the Gojo Satoru character panel. Finally, the system pinged with changes. Template synchronization, 5%. You have unlocked a new skill, Limitless. Congratulations. Your skill, Energy Absorption, has been upgraded. Chapter 2, The Art of Transformation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2, The Cang Spell Reversal. No lower limit technique. LV1, 1/100 interferes with matter at the atomic level, granting spatial control. The closer an object gets, the slower it becomes, ultimately unable to touch the user. Energy absorption. LV2, 1/300 absorbs most forms of energy at a rate matching the user's energy storage capacity. As his fusion rate hit 5%, boosting energy absorption to level 2, Sumu instantly felt the changes. He absorbed energy faster, his body could hold more, and a new technique was etched into his very soul. No lower limit. Sumu grasped how to use it, but with such a low fusion rate, he could only maintain it for about 5 minutes. It was far from Gojo Satoru's passive state. Still, all he needed was a jailbreak, and he now had the power to make it happen. Dawn was still hours away. To be safe, he'd keep absorbing energy, increase the fusion rate, and unlock new abilities. That was the only way to guarantee success. Suddenly, a voice broke the silence. Sumu turned to see a middle-aged guy whispering, "Hey, kid. You're a mutant." The guy was staring at Sumu's hand, where he was absorbing electricity. The point of contact glowed faintly. When Sumu didn't respond, the man turned aggressive. "You disgusting mutant. You gotta have a way out of here, right? Of course you do. You freaks all have crazy powers. So listen up, when you escape, you're taking me with you. Otherwise, I'm telling those thugs you're a mutant. They'll be real interested in that, I bet." Still no reaction from Sumu. The guy was getting impatient. "Damn it, you hear me, mutant?" Sumu remained still, a subtle smile curving his lips. Thanks to government propaganda, regular people were hostile to mutants. Seeing them as freaks, they conveniently forgot that mutants had powers that could rip them apart. Sumu looked up, brushed his white hair back, revealing his bright blue eyes, and smiled. "Don't worry, sir. I'll get you out of here right now." The man grinned. "That's what I like to hear." Sumu stopped absorbing electricity and walked to the bars. He reached out. "Sir, give me your hand. My power is teleportation. I'll get you out of here." The man was thrilled. The kid was a pushover. He'd decided he'd call the cops the second he was out and rat the mutant out. There was a hefty reward for turning in mutants, enough to live comfortably for a while. He wouldn't dare report the thugs who'd caught him in the first place. Those were stone-cold killers. He wasn't about to cross them until he was long gone, and if Sumu tried anything, what was he gonna do? If he was so tough, why would ordinary thugs catch him in the first place? His power probably needed a long recharge, no threat at all. If Sumu hadn't time-traveled and awakened the system, the man would be right. When their palms touched, an invisible jolt of electricity surged into the middle-aged man's body, paralyzing him. Level 2 energy absorption was no joke. But Sumu wasn't trying to electrocute him. Anyone who has electrocuted someone before knows that it creates a pungent burnt smell that is easily detected. Sumu reached out, amplified his strength with the energy stored in his body, grabbed the man's neck, and twisted. A quiet crack, and the man was dead. It was late, and the slight noise wouldn't attract attention. Even if someone heard it, they'd assume it was someone cracking their knuckles. He laid the body down, returned to his spot, and resumed absorbing energy. Everything looked normal. The system prompts continued. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy absorption experience +1. Energy absorption experience +1. Energy absorption experience +1. Hours passed. Sumu saw the first hints of dawn through the window. He continued to absorb energy and pour points into the template when he heard the system message. Template fusion rate, 10%. New skill unlocked, spell reversal sung. Chapter 3 Blooming Blue Black Hole. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Today's the day the gangsters make their trades. They grabbed the prison keys, opened every cell, and dragged the inmates out into the world. Everyone knew what was coming, and despair set in. Some wailed, some begged, some threatened, but the gangsters were unmoved. Cooperation meant no trouble, resistance meant a jolt from an electric baton. Soon they reached Sumu's cell, and the damn black guy was with them. He saw Sumu watching him and grinned, making a throat-slitting gesture. He expected fear, but Sumu just smiled back, a bright, sunny smile that pissed him off. Yellow monkey, get your ass out here. Today's your lucky day. Sumu calmly replied, yeah, it is a good day. Jim, enraged that Sumu dared talk back, stepped closer and hissed, you might not know, but I told Dr. John to skip the anesthesia for your organ removal. You're gonna die screaming. Sumu just gave him a knowing smile. Maybe you won't be around to see it. Provoked again, Jim, ignoring where this yellow monkey found his guts, was ready to teach him a lesson. He might catch some heat from the boss, but as long as he didn't kill him, it wouldn't be too bad. He cocked back his fist and aimed a punch at Sumu's face. He'd hated that handsome face for a long time, especially the calm it was currently trying to project. The gang members behind Jim didn't interfere, watching with anticipation, eager for the yellow monkey's screams, but what happened next shocked them. Jim's fist stopped inches from Sumu's face, unable to go further. At first, they thought Jim was joking. Hey Jim, knock it off. The deal's about to go down. The boss'll skin you if you're late. Yeah, hurry up and beat this yellow monkey. I can't wait to hear him scream. I can't. Jim stared at Sumu, his dark brown eyes swirling into deep blue. His jet black hair had somehow turned pure white overnight. Sumu was smiling, but the cruel twist of his lips, the mockery in his eyes, showed that he was in control. What the hell was going on? Jim's mind raced. Could he be a mutant? The other gang members, noticing Jim's reaction, started to see it too. Jim's arm was strained, muscles trembling. He was putting everything he had into this punch. The closer he got to Sumu, the more his body vibrated, distorting the light around his hand. Something was wrong, everything was wrong. They realized what was happening. The yellow monkey was a mutant. Fear gripped them, especially seeing that indifferent smile on Sumu's face. They instinctively backed away, seeing the black man straining in front of him. Sumu smiled encouragingly, come on, just a little further. But as soon as he said it, Sumu's smile vanished. Jim was trying to run away. Sumu wasn't about to let him escape, he still had a little gift for him. Energy surged through his body, enhancing his strength. With impossible speed, he grabbed the back of the Jim's head and slammed it into the ground. Bang! The sickening sound echoed through the prison. Jim was knocked unconscious, but Sumu wasn't done. Using his enhanced strength, he stomped on Jim's limbs. Bones and flesh were crushed under his feet, blood spreading. Jim woke up screaming as Sumu crushed his right arm, but he couldn't fight back. He could only watch as Sumu disabled him, turning him into a broken mess. Sumu ignored Jim. The gift had been delivered, that was enough. The sight of Sumu, standing in blood, snapped the rest of the gang out of their shock. One of them yelled, "His powers have to be limited, otherwise Jim wouldn't have caught him." "Shoot him. We can take him." That the others reacted instantly. "Yeah. Shoot him." That this gang member was a pro, quickly recovering and raising his rifle, but what happened next filled them with despair. The bullets hung in the air, twisting and contorting, unable to reach Sumu. It was like they were separated by the edge of the universe, an invincible technique. How is this happening? Why isn't it working? What the hell is his mutant power? If he was this strong, how did Jim catch him? That they lost all composure, pulling the triggers like madmen, spraying bullets at Sumu, but the bullets wouldn't get close, and Sumu was using Jim's body as a shield. He didn't want Jim to die easily. He wanted him to suffer in despair. Then Sumu glanced at the shooting gang members and the others who were running over to help. He grinned, a dark, twisted smile, and held his hands out, palms facing each other, slightly cupped. Technique, forward, song. Energy flowed through his body, creating a terrifying blue vortex in front of him. It sucked in the bullets like a black hole. Then, with a build-up of energy, boom. The terrifying vortex exploded forward, obliterating everything in its path. Flesh, steel, concrete, were all sucked into the void. When the dust settled, the gang members were gone, not even a scrap of flesh remained. P.S. The blue black hole is an exaggeration, not a real black hole. Of course, the protagonist will definitely reach that level in the future. Please follow, read, and invest. Chapter 4 Breaking Out of the Cage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The place went silent. Everyone still alive stared, shocked. What the hell was that? Can mutants even do that? He's a straight-up demon. A gang member, trembling, peeled off a severed limb that had landed on his face, then screamed and bolted, but he didn't get far before the gang leader put a bullet in his head. The leader roared, "What are you screaming about? There's no way he can pull that stunt twice in a row. Everyone, open fire. We'll wear him down. Jello, get the rocket launcher. And don't forget, Kingpin wants this done. He won't be happy if we screw it up." Kingpin's name had an immediate effect. The gang members, faces grim, started blasting away at Sumu. It was like this Kingpin was even scarier than the guy who just unleashed that insane blue vortex. Sumu just walked through the hail of bullets. Didn't even flinch. The infinite technique drained energy based on time, not how hard you hit. Grinning like a maniac, he charged straight into them, seemingly unfazed. Energy coursed through him, strengthening his body. Gojo Satoru's combat skills and experience honed his mind. He'd never seen a battlefield like this, but he felt no fear, no hesitation. Just pure exhilaration. His grin widened, he braced his right foot, channeling his energy into cursed power, using the 6 eyes for pinpoint control to amplify his body. Boom. Star. His flesh and blood body slammed into the ground, launching him headfirst into the dozens of gang members. Hands, feet, joints, every part of his body became a deadly weapon, thanks to Gojo Satoru's expertise and the 6 eyes' precision. The gang members couldn't even track him. Stray bullets bounced harmlessly off the infinite technique. They dropped like flies, mowed down in swathes. Finally, Sumu reached the gang leader, a slow smile spreading across his face as he sauntered toward him, hands in his pockets. The leader was terrified. This guy broke everything he thought he knew about mutants. How could anyone be this strong? If they were all this powerful, they wouldn't be treated like rats, constantly hunted and harassed. I don't believe it. There's gotta be a weakness in your powers. The gang leader yelled, trying to mask the sheer terror in his voice. Just then, a goon shoved the rocket launcher into his hands. His eyes lit up. The fear vanished, replaced by a twisted sense of hope. He snatched the launcher and aimed it at Sumu, roaring, "Eat this!" A fiery blast erupted, engulfing Sumu in a violent explosion. The gang leader, shaking with adrenaline, cackled, "Damn mutants! Damn yellow monkeys! Rot in hell!" But as the smoke cleared, he heard footsteps. Then, an arm shot out from the smoke, a hand clamping around his throat. The deep blue light, like the abyss itself, appeared first. Then, the stark white hair. Finally, the ragged, mismatched clothes and the scars that riddled his body. Sumu grinned, a predatory gleam in his eyes as he looked at the leader and his terrified goons. Reversal technique, red. The blue vortex returned, gathering in his hand. It engulfed the gang leader with a scream, then blasted forward, tearing a massive hole in the prison wall. Done, Sumu turned his back to the others. He channeled his energy, enhancing his body, and vanished in a blur. He blasted through the hole, escaping the prison, leaving behind only the incapacitated gang members and the newly freed, innocent prisoners. After he was gone, silence hung in the air. Then, a massive cheer erupted, echoing through the prison as the freed prisoners stampeded toward the gap in the wall, their gateway to freedom. Hours later, in a lavishly decorated room in Hell's Kitchen, a crystal chandelier illuminated the scene below. The Kingpin sat in a chair, his face hidden in shadow. He was a mountain of a man, easily 7 feet tall. The man giving the report was a figure in a strange, form-fitting suit. "Bullseye, you're telling me this deal went south?" Most people would have been shaking in their boots, but Bullseye remained calm, delivering his report in a monotone. "Yes. Almost all members are dead. Most are missing chunks, if they are there at all. Apparently, there was a mutant in the cargo. He's responsible." The room went silent. A minute passed before Kingpin opened his eyes and asked, without emotion, "Can I kill him? If he's human, I can kill him. Then I want his corpse within the week." "As you wish." Meanwhile, in a hidden corner of Hell's Kitchen, in an underground prison, a kindly-looking man with a receding hairline entered the basement. Behind him were several surviving gang members and freed prisoners. Reaching the prison, Coulson dropped the pleasant facade. He stared at the twisted metal cage, the shattered floor, and the gaping hole in the wall and couldn't help but ask, "You're saying one mutant did all this?" Everyone nodded. A young woman, her eyes filled with longing, stepped forward and told Phil Coulson, "Yes." He was a handsome gentleman. Unforgettable silver hair, deep, soulful eyes, impeccable manners, and incredible strength. "He's not like those other violent mutants. He's a true gentleman." While the woman was clearly smitten, her description offered valuable information. Coulson took another look at the scene, focusing on the hole in the wall and the crater in the ground. He muttered to himself, "A blue vortex. An unknown, powerful mutant, definitely a level 3, possibly a level 4. And level 5 isn't out of the question." Suddenly, a voice crackled in his earpiece. "Agent Coulson, what's the situation?" "Director Fury, this mutant is extremely powerful and could definitely be an asset to your plan." "Good. Track him down. Do whatever it takes to recruit him. We need him on our side." Chapter 5 Spider-Woman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Busted out of that gangster jail and, thanks to the original owner's memories, I knew exactly where I was, Hell's Kitchen. Now that I knew the lay of the land, I took off. My mutant powers got exposed the moment they kicked in. The cops grabbed me, but the gangsters who had me locked up wouldn't let it slide. Before I took out the boss, I squeezed out of him that he was on Kingpin's payroll. And Kingpin? He's the freakin' underground mayor of New York. I wrecked his operation, so he's definitely got a vendetta. So, with the cops and Kingpin's goons on my tail, leveling up my powers is priority number 1. I'd been spamming Unlimited Void like crazy, even double-tapping Cang, and my energy reserves were practically bone dry. If I ran into any hitters right now, I'd be toast. Rounding another corner, I spotted a transformer. Relief washed over me. Electricity was the easiest energy source I could think of, my best bet to survive the early game. With 6 eyes guiding me, I started siphoning power from the generator, pushing my absorption to the max. Energy point +1, dot, energy point +1, dot, energy point +1, dot, energy absorption experience +1, dot, energy absorption experience +1, dot, energy absorption experience +1. Watching my energy points climb and feeling my body recharge, I grinned. Once I sensed I was almost maxed out, I switched to honing my skills. The system only gave me level 1 abilities to start. Time to grind, like, my Cang technique was weak compared to Gojo Satoru's. Constant practice and upgrades were the only way to get real power. With the system backing me up, I could even surpass the original template, hit levels nobody's ever seen. Out of all my powers, 6 eyes didn't directly boost my strength. Energy absorption levels up fast just by using it. Unlimited void. Upgrading that just reduced energy drain and, if leveled high enough, it would evolve. So, I focused on Cang, the offensive powerhouse. Problem was, it was weak, conjuring a tiny black hole that moved super slow. Against regular Joes, it'd work. But against mutants or any other powered-up baddies? Forget it. Guided by 6 eyes, I condensed a blue-black hole the size of a ping-pong ball, carefully controlling its movements, and then, the system chimed in, dot, experience +1 for the skill of Cang. Chapter 6 Beat Up the Lizardman. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gwen glared at the massive lizard monster, her voice tight with anger. Connors, this time I'm taking you down and you're going to jail. Spider-Gwen launched herself at the Lizardman. He was strong enough to shatter concrete pillars, but against the agile Spider-Woman, all he could do was endure her strikes. Even though Gwen's attacks kept landing, they weren't doing any real damage. His skin was thick, and he had a healing factor. He could shrug off blows that would kill a normal person. Even minor injuries healed almost instantly thanks to his regeneration. Anger definitely made Gwen stronger, but she was burning through her energy fast, and soon she was panting. As her stamina waned, so did her speed and strength, and she began to lose ground. Suddenly, the Lizardman spotted an opening, grabbed her leg, and hurled her. She slammed into a crumbling wall, leaving a Gwen-shaped dent. She was still new to this whole superpower thing. The impact was brutal, and the pain was overwhelming. She struggled to her feet, but the terrifying green figure loomed over her, blocking the dim streetlights and casting her in shadow. A sickening crack echoed as she was kicked again, and this time, she couldn't get back up. Heavy footsteps approached, and Gwen tried desperately to lift her head, to fight back, but she was too weak. She stared up at the approaching Lizardman. Paralyzed by fear, Dr. Connors, consumed by his lizard form, was beyond reason. She knew he wouldn't show her any mercy. Is this it? Did I just get these powers just to die? No way, I'm not ready to die, but the searing pain in her unresponsive body told her she was helpless. She was about to fall into the abyss, just like that man from before. Then, a voice cut through the night. It was a voice that should have been silenced, one she thought she'd imagined, but the Lizardman stopped, and she knew she'd heard right. The man from before wasn't dead. How was that possible? But the next words confirmed the impossible. Hey, Lizard Breath, you deaf? The Lizardman turned, and Sumu grinned, a dangerous glint in his eyes. You attacked me directly. Think I'm some kind of pushover? The Lizardman looked at Sumu, confused. How was the little guy still alive? Professor Connors was a genius, but as the Lizardman, his IQ plummeted. Instinctive destruction was more his style now. After seeing Sumu resurrected, he only paused for a moment, then lunged, eager to tear him to shreds. Gwen, not knowing how the man had survived, knew he was no match for the Lizardman. Get out of here. Run. She shouted, but what happened next left her speechless. Roar. The Lizardman roared and charged. He may look bulky, but he was fast. His apparent clumsiness was only in comparison to the agile Spider-Woman. In fact, his speed, reflexes, and agility were on par with hers, but his size slowed him down. Of course, that bulk also gave him incredible strength. He barreled toward Sumu like a runaway truck, but it was just a truck. Sumu raised a hand, and the space around him warped and twisted, creating an impenetrable barrier. Magic without limits. Gwen watched in disbelief as the giant Lizardman closed in on the man. At that speed, his body would be crushed. She couldn't bear to watch, but then the man raised an arm, and stopped the Lizardman in his tracks. How could a thin arm stop the monster? What the hell is going on? What is happening in this world? Gwen was losing her mind. Sumu grinned, watching the Lizardman struggle in vain, thrashing at him, but unable to land a blow. Come on, you almost got me. Enraged, the Lizardman roared again, putting every ounce of strength into a single, desperate attack, but nothing happened. Centimeters felt like miles, an impossible distance. Growing tired of the game, Sumu channeled his energy into pure magical power. He was going to end this. With his current template fusion level, even cursed energy wouldn't be enough to match the Lizardman's raw power, but with the 6 eyes, the Lizardman was just a sandbag. His limitless technique was active, and the Lizardman couldn't touch him, while Sumu was free to attack at will. Each strike was charged with cursed energy. Gwen watched in stunned silence as this seemingly frail man beat the Lizardman, completely dominating him. Like an acrobat, Sumu's every move was elegant and lethal. Bang! His foot connected with the Lizardman's chest, sending him flying through several walls before he crashed to the ground, but he was back on his feet in seconds. Despite the damage, his regeneration kicked in, erasing the injuries. The hope that had flickered in Gwen's eyes died once more. She knew this story. She'd lost because of that terrifying healing ability. Even if the man was strong, he'd be exhausted long before he could deal a killing blow. She called out to him, "Hey, Lizardman has a crazy fast healing factor. You need to put him down fast, or he will wear you out to death. Your damage has to outpace his healing factor." Sumu ignored her and focused on the increasingly agitated Lizardman. As soon as the monster was healed, he roared and charged again. A cruel smile twisted his lips as he looked at the behemoth. "Think I can't hurt you?" He held out his hand, his slender fingers twitching. His voice changed, becoming cold. Technique reversal, red. Chapter 7 6 Eyes LV2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The terrifying azure vortex reappeared, swallowing everything in its path. The second he cast reversed song, Sumu felt a jolt. His energy was being rapidly converted into spell power and drained away. The blue black hole, which could barely reach the size of a pineapple before, was now the size of a basketball. Of course, with increased power came a much greater energy drain, but despite the cost, the performance of the level 2 reversed song didn't disappoint. The azure black hole shot towards the Lizardman at more than twice its original speed. He sensed the danger instinctively, but he was too close, and the black hole was moving too fast for him to dodge. Gwen, watching from a distance, saw the horrifying scene unfold. The Lizardman's body contorted violently as flesh and muscle were pulled towards his center. Then, a terrifying blue-black hole erupted from his chest, devouring his flesh and blood until nothing was left. And even after completely consuming the Lizardman, the azure black hole didn't stop. It continued to devour everything around it, the air, the pavement, the rubble, the streetlights. What terrified her was that the azure black hole was now hurtling towards her at breakneck speed. Seriously injured, she couldn't escape. She could only brace for the end. Facing the lizard people, she had been filled with anger, but now, facing the blue black hole, she was paralyzed with fear. There was no stopping it. The vortex was going to swallow everything, even her thoughts. Gwen's mind went blank, but when the azure black hole was only a few feet away, its pull already tugging at her, the vortex suddenly vanished. Gone, she gasped, taking a shaky breath. She had never been so close to death, never felt so helpless. Is this really a power that humans can wield? After unleashing reversed song, Sumu watched the complete disintegration of the Lizardman and smiled with satisfaction. The improvement at song was greater than he expected. Around level 4 or 5, he might reach Gojo Satoru's level, and if he could raise the skill level even further, he'd surpass him. When the dust settled, Sumu looked ahead and saw his friendly neighborhood Spider-Woman unconscious and badly wounded. His 6 eyes revealed multiple fractures and internal bleeding, but Spider-Woman had a healing factor. She'd recover quickly, despite her injuries. The problem was, they were in Hell's Kitchen, and a battle had just gone down. Too many eyes were sure to be watching. Sumu wasn't exactly a saint, but he didn't want to see his favorite character die in front of him. 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1, 6 eyes experience +1. Following the system prompts, Sumu used his 6 eyes to assess Gwen's condition, and skillfully reset her dislocated bones to speed up her healing. Then, on impulse, Sumu pulled off Spider-Woman's hood and mask, revealing a delicate, pretty face, short blonde hair, delicate features. This was Gwen Stacy, alright, and even more beautiful than any movie or comic depiction. Suddenly, Spider-Woman stirred in his arms. Dazed, she looked at the handsome man holding her. Then, snapping awake, she vaulted out of Sumu's arms and landed several feet away. Her injured state led to a clumsy landing, and she stumbled. You. Finally steady, Gwen noticed the white mask in the man's hand. She touched her face, and realization dawned. He knew who she was. Oh my god, what do I do? Why did someone figure out my identity so fast? Panic set in, and Gwen was at a loss. Sumu was surprised she recovered so quickly. Spider-Woman's healing factor was no joke. He held up the mask and said, I didn't expect my friendly neighborhood Spider-Woman to be so young. Are you still in school? Why did you take off my mask? Sumu tilted his head and gave her a bright smile. Wasn't I supposed to? Sorry. If you're mad, go ahead and punch me. Gwen. After watching Sumu wipe the floor with the lizard, she knew how much power that slender-looking man possessed, and how no matter what, she was no match for the man in front of her. Why did you kill Dr. Lizard? The medicine twisted him, made him violent and hungry, but he wasn't a bad person. Gwen asked. Sumu wasn't surprised by her question. She was a kind soul. It was one of the reasons he liked Gwen, but while he wanted her to be kind, he wasn't necessarily kind himself. He tried to kill me. He should have been prepared to be killed in return. Gwen wanted to argue, but held her tongue. From Sumu's perspective, he wasn't wrong. It was self-defense, but losing an acquaintance so suddenly still stung, so she just said, maybe you're not wrong, but I should go. Then, she web-slinged away. Seeing her leave, Sumu called out, your mask. Spider-Woman paused, hesitated, then swung back and snatched the mask from his hand before taking off again. As much as I want to punch that smug grin, I should probably consider the strength difference. Nah, justice-loving Spider-Woman thought. Watching her go, Sumu had a sudden realization. Maybe time traveling wasn't so bad. At least he could interact with characters he'd only admired from afar. They weren't just heroes on a screen anymore. They were real people, with real lives. Sensing the remaining energy within him, Sumu grabbed a severed wire and began absorbing electricity. Energy absorption experience +1. Energy absorption experience +1. Energy absorption experience +1. 6 eyes experience +1. 6 eyes experience +1. 6 eyes experience +1. The 6 eyes were constantly activated as he absorbed energy, giving Sumu the ability to accurately control energy. As a result, his 6 eyes experience steadily increased. A few minutes later, the system notification popped up. 6 eyes experience +1. Congratulations. Skill, 6 eyes has leveled up. Please collect and read. Chapter 8 Level 5 Mutant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 6 eyes, Level 2, 1/300 grants a 360-degree, long-range view, the ability to see energy flows, and incredible dynamic vision, allowing precise energy manipulation. Since the upgrade, the 360-degree range doubled from 200 to 500 meters. This is the range he can observe with crystal clarity, capturing small targets, observing specific energy flows, and tracking fast movement with ease. Beyond 500 meters, his vision blurs, becoming like anyone else's, able to see, but not clearly. Level 2 also unlocked clairvoyance. Now, his 6 eyes can see through about 4 inches of steel, showing the inside in vibrant color, unlike the black and white of other similar abilities. Well, that was easy. Sumu felt a little underwhelmed, having gained one of his greatest desires from his past life so effortlessly. Suddenly, Sumu spotted several drones heading his way. Further back, a heavily armed force was moving fast, following the drones. This wasn't Jean Bin's revenge, and definitely not gangsters. They wouldn't have this kind of high-tech gear. This was military, a secret unit specializing in capturing mutants. The drones approached quickly. Sumu grinned ferociously at a drone's camera, then a blue black hole swallowed them whole. He used magic to boost his strength and took off. From the original owner's memories, Sumu knew some mutants served in the military, and they were dangerous, even with unlimited spells. He wasn't safe against all sorts of weird powers. This was his time to grow fast, so fighting the army was a no-go. He needed to absorb energy and improve his template fusion. Once he mastered the reversal spell, he'd be unstoppable. Note, the reversal technique is a powerful healing ability. In a hidden military base, screens lined the wall. Suddenly, several screens went black at once, drones destroyed almost simultaneously. A colonel with a grim face and piercing eyes asked, "What's going on?" A soldier jumped up and reported, "Colonel Stryker, something happened during the capture of Subject 9527. He seems to have awakened a second time, gaining another mutant power." Stryker's eyes flashed. He recalled 9527, whose powers mirrored a powerful mutant from decades ago. That mutant was a terrifying energy absorber. But 9527's energy was weak, barely able to absorb the force of a punch, so he hadn't been a priority. Now, he reappeared with new abilities. Stryker replayed the drone footage, focusing on a blue-black hole. It was clearly powerful, easily tearing metal and destroying drones. 9527 also had enhanced perception, anticipating the drones. His white hair and blue eyes piqued Stryker's curiosity. The video froze on that menacing grin. Colonel Stryker smirked. "Capture 9527 at all costs. He's a goldmine for research. Send in subjects 1085 and 1086. 1086's space attack should break through 9527's defenses." He muttered, "You want to fight? You got it." At Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters, in a hidden lab, Jean Grey handed Professor X a report. "Professor, Stryker's forces are moving. They're deploying almost everything to capture a mutant, Subject 9527. 9527, like Stryker, Professor X remembered the mutant. He was reminded of the Black King, Sebastian Shaw, the most powerful enemy he'd ever faced. He and Eric had only barely defeated him. Sumu, the young Chinese man, 9527, seemed to have a low power ceiling and was extremely weak for a level 1 mutant, almost useless. Professor X hadn't invited him to Xavier's, but now Stryker was after him. Stryker wouldn't waste resources unless Sumu was valuable. Something must have changed. He used Cerebro to find Sumu, intending to invite him to Xavier's before Stryker, but why can't I find Sumu's mind? I sensed him before. He could sense even Jean Grey, with her unlimited potential. Could it be? Professor X realized something. The changes in Sumu might be blocking him, blocking his mind reading. Was Sumu potentially a level 5 mutant? Or, already one? He told Jean Grey, "Find Sumu. Contact him before Stryker and Eric. Bring him here." Sumu could be a level 5. Chapter 9 Space Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Across the street, a sleek city girl ducked into a narrow alley and disappeared into a room. Inside, a man with a bizarre helmet stood at the window, his gaze fixed on the bustling street below. "Eric, new intel. Stryker and Xavier are hunting a mutant named Sumu. His powers only level 1, energy absorption. My gut says his abilities reawakened, which is why they're interested." Magneto didn't turn around, still studying the world outside, especially the ordinary folks without powers. Energy absorption. Raven, get in touch with Sumu ASAP. Before they do, anyone Charles and Stryker are after is trouble. We want him for the Brotherhood. Oblivious to the fact that he'd become a target for multiple groups because of his reawakened powers, Sumu had left Hell's Kitchen. He'd used the gang's donation to buy a new outfit and grab a shower at a hotel. Even without mastering the reversal technique, his injuries were healing at a superhuman rate because of the constant energy absorption. Even old scars were fading, revealing clear skin. Sporting a pair of round-framed sunglasses, he looked like a new man, erasing all traces of his time in that underground prison. Now, he was a strikingly handsome 6'3" badass. After a goodbye to the winking store manager, Sumu left under her wistful gaze. After being arrested by the army and threatened by Kingpin, he was eager to move on. Opening his system panel, Sumu checked his energy points. 3,425. After hours of continuous energy absorption, Sumu had racked up a massive 3,000 energy points. He dumped them all into the system, and the template fusion percentage shot up, finally settling at 23%. The system dinged again. Template fusion, 23%. New skill unlocked. Reversal technique. Reversal technique LV1, 1/100 converts negative energy from cursed power into positive energy, with potent healing effects. Finally, the reversal technique. This skill would massively boost his survivability, giving him even better self-healing than the lizard. The reversal technique info flooding his brain told him he could only use it on himself for now, but as the skill leveled up, that would change. He might even be able to revive others and restore things to their original state. Hold up. Through his 6 eyes, Sumu spotted a figure barreling toward him at top speed. It was a huge brute, easily 7 feet tall. He plowed through the crowd without a second thought, sending civilians flying. Almost instantly, screams erupted as some civilians were killed. In the distance, drones and troops were mobilizing, racing to the scene. The brute stopped, muscles bulging, his skin a deep gray. Veins throbbed under his skin, channeling energy to his massive frame. He had a short, dwarfish man clinging to his back. The little man was skinny, his limbs no thicker than the brute's arm. Sumu stood his ground. Judging by the brute's speed, as seen through his 6 eyes, the guy was way faster. Unless he could teleport with the art of Cang, he couldn't outrun him, but Cang was too low level at this point. The brute stopped 10 yards away, his bare feet digging into the asphalt, shattering the ground to slow his momentum. Chunks of pavement flew toward Sumu, but froze in mid-air. Unable to touch him, the brute nodded. White hair, blue eyes, and that weird power. You're 9527, right? 9527, Sumu knew that number. Wasn't that from some movie? Why was this brute calling him 9527? The brute saw his confusion, but didn't explain. 9527, don't resist. Come with me. Colonel Stryker wants to see you, don't make this difficult. You don't want your limbs twisted off before we drag you back. The brute spoke as if it was a foregone conclusion, treating Sumu like easily caught prey. He lunged to grab Sumu, but couldn't get within inches. The limitless technique. The brute's face contorted with rage at the sight. Looks like we'll have to teach you a lesson, then. I'll set some ground rules before you join us. Sumu pushed his sunglasses down, revealing his piercing blue eyes. He casually picked his ear, then flicked the invisible earwax toward the brute. Through the lenses, Sumu smiled brightly, but his eyes were cold. Okay, we're setting rules. Here's one: if you cry and beg, I might spare your life. Cocky. The brute couldn't take being underestimated any longer. He threw a punch, but it didn't connect. Sumu lowered his sunglasses and walked toward the brute. A massive force pressed down on the brute. His size meant nothing under this overwhelming power. In the distance, the army arrived and opened fire, but the bullets couldn't reach Sumu. Ignoring the hail of bullets, Sumu forced the brute against a wall. With each step, the wall cracked and crumbled. Aren't you gonna cry and beg? Sumu asked casually, looking into his enemy's eyes. The brute finally realized he was outmatched. This guy was on a whole other level. Fear crept in, filling his mind. He abandoned the plan and screamed. Don't move. The instant the brute spoke, Sumu felt a familiar surge, spatial energy. Looking at the dwarf on the brute's back, he saw the man was the source. An invisible space blade hurtled toward him. It was so fast, he couldn't dodge it. Sizzle, that the sound of tearing flesh echoed as the space blade nearly sliced Sumu in half, drowned out by the brute's maniacal laughter. Please read and collect. Chapter 10, Reversal of the Technique. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10, Reversal Spell, H. He knew a strong man lugging a dwarf around was trouble, but the space blade was just too damn fast. Even with his 6 eyes and super reflexes, he couldn't track it. He tried his best to dodge, but Sumu still caught a nasty wound, nearly sliced in half. Instantly, he reached out, using Cang to create a massive pull behind the strongman. The guy was yanked backward, slamming into the already weakened wall, which instantly crumbled. He crashed into the shop behind it, sending customers scattering and screaming. The impact wasn't enough to hurt the strongman, though. The dwarf riding piggyback was completely shielded and untouched. The strongman got to his feet, brushed himself off, and ignoring the panicked civilians, glared at Sumu, who was bleeding like a stuck pig from his chest and stomach. A cruel smile twisted his lips. "Dumbass," he sneered, "let's see how you handle another space slash." He started towards Sumu, ready to make good on his promise to rip him limb from limb and deliver the pieces to Colonel Stryker. He figured Stryker wouldn't blame him for Sumu's death. The colonel hated mutants, right? Why would he get pissed about losing some chump like Tool? Up on a nearby rooftop, 2 groups were facing off. On one side were Cyclops and Storm from the X-Men, and on the other, Juggernaut and Mystique from the Brotherhood of Mutants. They'd bumped into each other hunting for Sumu, and things had escalated fast. Cyclops had one hand hovering over his visor, ready to unleash hell with a focused optic blast. He growled, "Sumu's a mutant worth saving. We can't let you brainwash him." Mystique, keeping behind Juggernaut for cover, shot back, "Mutants are the next step in evolution. Humans are just ants. A superior mutant like Sumu should join the Brotherhood. We'll show him the real path." The real path? Like a terrorist blowing things up, Storm jumped in, breaking the tension. "Guys, look. Sumu's not doing so hot." Everyone's attention snapped to her. Their whole mission was to recruit Sumu. If he bought the farm, they'd all be wasting their time. They looked down and saw Sumu nearly filleted by that space blade. What? While they'd been arguing, Stryker's goons were about to off their target. Even if Sumu wasn't exactly what they'd hoped for, they couldn't just let him die. It was a loss they couldn't stomach. Cyclops' hand tightened on his visor. Storm's hair began to float, her eyes going pure white. Juggernaut crouched into a charge. They had to save the kid before that strongman finished him off. A wound like that was bad, but there were healers among the mutants. Combine that with advanced tech, and they could fix him, if they acted fast. But what happened next stopped them dead in their tracks, and they stared in disbelief at the battered Sumu. He had another mutant power. The strongman strutted towards Sumu, a smug look on his face. He planned to break Sumu, then ship him off to Stryker. Stryker hoarded mutants with healing powers. As long as Sumu was still breathing, they could patch him up. If he didn't make it, so what? Stryker only cared about mutants stronger than him, and anyone he could beat was worthless. But he only got a few steps before he froze, pointing a shaky finger at Sumu. "You, what? How is that possible? Your wound, it's gone." He'd been too far away, and the dust from the collapsed wall had obscured his view. Now he was close enough to see Sumu's near-fatal wound healing at warp speed. By the time he registered what was happening, the last of the injury had vanished completely. He stared at the white-haired kid in front of him, mouth agape. Terrifying spatial defense, black hole attack power, physical prowess, and super healing. Was this even a mutant? Not even Magneto or Professor X were this powerful. Could it be? Was he a legendary level 5 mutant? The tables had turned. With Cyclops and the other mutants looking on in awe, the army soldiers looking fearful, and the strongman looking terrified, Sumu grinned. "I changed my mind. Begging for mercy won't save you now. You." The strongman gaped at Sumu, suddenly afraid to move. His trump card was the dwarf space attack, the only thing that could pierce Sumu's defense. If that failed, he was screwed. He yanked the dwarf off his back, shoved him forward, and yelled, "Use the space blade again." "Kill him," that the space blade had clearly drained the dwarf. He was shaking like a leaf, face as white as a ghost, but under the strongman's glare, he summoned the strength to unleash another space blade at Sumu. The dwarf space blade took a lot out of him, but it was still deadly, and still lightning fast. This time, Sumu was ready, but it still hit. One arm was almost completely severed, but with his reversal power, his injuries were already mending at an incredible rate. This time, the strongman saw the whole process. Watching Sumu recover from a mortal wound in seconds, he lost his nerve. He hurled the dwarf towards Sumu, turned tail, and yelled at his soldiers, "Stop him!" That the strongman couldn't face Sumu, so he ran. Striker would punish him for failure, but at least he'd live. That was better than facing the monster in front of him. Seeing the dwarf coming at him, Sumu used his 6 eyes to confirm that the guy was tapped out. No more space blades in the tank. He reached out, and under the dwarf's panicked stare, crushed the little guy like a bug, splattering blood everywhere. The dwarf didn't even have time to scream, but Sumu was spotless. The blood that hit him hung in the air, unable to touch him, like the bullets from before. Then Sumu glanced in the direction of the fleeing strongman. Armed soldiers were pouring fire on him, but the strongman was already far away. He couldn't let him escape. He made a decision. He extended a finger, pointed it at the strongman's back, and said softly, "Spell reversal, H."